yourself a nice sturdy chair. Last time I did chair work, I had a sort of quite nicely cushioned one. But if you can get a hard base chair, that would be perfect. And one that doesn't wobble about too much. This one is okay because it's on my mat at the moment. So just joining in as soon as you can, and you're all ready. So we're going to sit up really nice and tall. So I just love the feedback that the chair gives you, and we're doing all the stuff that we normally do. So thinking about, although we're not standing, still lifting the spine, having the spine in the correct position. And if you've got a nice hard-based chair, feeling that those sit bones are equally weighted, and then lifting the crown of the head up towards the ceiling. Imagine if I was there and putting my hands on top of your head, you're going to try and lift your head up towards the ceiling. Relaxing the legs, and I'm sitting quite forwards in my chair so that I'm not slumping back at all, and I'm sort of perching on the edge of it. But actually you want your legs to be quite comfortable. So feet nice and flat, legs bent, obviously feet and knees parallel as well. Hips and shoulders square to wherever your front is. And when we start to do things with one arm, just mirror me. So don't worry too much about, I'll try not to say too much about rights and lefts. So let's just sit tall with those hands resting on your thighs. Think about the weight through your feet. Even though you're not actually standing on them, still be aware of, are you rolling out, are you rolling in? And ground your feet a little bit into the floor. And then working your way up through your legs. Think about your sit bones. Pelvis is neutral. Sit bones equally weighted. Lifting the rib cage up off of the hips. And just allowing the shoulders to just be, they're relaxed down, they're probably a little bit forwards, but that's absolutely fine. Imagine the biggest gap between your earlobe and your collarbone. And then try and lift the crown of the head up towards the ceiling. And just take some deep breathing for me. So breath in through the nose. Observe where the breath goes. There's my first rhyme. Excellent. And then a breath out through the mouth as if you're blowing out through a straw. And observing again what happens on that out breath. So try not to collapse at all on the out breath especially. We tend to, if we weren't thinking about it, on the out breath, especially if we're really taking deep breaths, we might collapse a little bit in that spine and the length of the spine. If anything, grow taller as you breathe out. So ground the feet, lift the top of the head up towards the ceiling. Imagine we're outside. There is no ceiling, you've just got the sky. You're reaching the top of your head up. And then just opening up the eyes. So let's just explore shoulder positions to start with. So this chair movement, I did one before, but it's basically inspired by a Garuda workshop that I did at the weekend, or a Garuda boot camp I did at the weekend. And also realising that it's nice to use a different piece of equipment, to not always be standing, and it just gives you different things to think about and heightens your awareness. So at the moment I'm taking my shoulders all the way forwards, bringing them back to centre, and then pinning them back a bit. Shoulders forwards and pinning them back. And then I'm going to take them up towards the ears and draw them down. So a big shrug up towards the ears. So close that gap between earlobe and collarbone, and now lengthen it. Close the gap and lengthen it. And then let's just take shoulder circles, shoulder rolls, just that ball and socket joint. That's my focus. Imagine you've got a sticker on there. I'm just going to turn my light on. I keep doing that, but last night I kept forgetting. It doesn't make much difference, but just a little bit. So always going backwards, just because we want to open up that chest. You don't have to. Let's take some forwards today, just for a bit of a change. Great, and then let's place the hands on the shoulders, and now circle your elbows. And try and take the biggest circle that you can with your elbows. And changing direction. And notice as you try and take the biggest circle that you can, that your rib cage has to shift forwards and backwards a little bit. And I'm also feeling, I'm a little bit aware that I'm slightly tucking my pelvis under so that I'm rocking backwards and forwards a little bit in the pelvis. Absolutely fine. I actively encourage you to move as much as you can. Hopefully by the end of today's class, you're just going to feel really wonderfully stretched out in all different directions. Now I had neck stretches here, but I'm not sure whether we actually need them. Let's just quickly just hold on to the edge of your chair, and just so I'm holding on with one side and just leaning away from that other side, from that heart, the hand that's hanging onto the chair. And then again, just release the hand on the chair and over to the other side. It helps to just anchor the shoulders and gives you something to pull away from, if you like. So we're always creating this opposite directions, which we're going to use on the floor a little bit more. Let's go back to the first side, over to one side, and stay tilted over, and now just draw a diagonal line. Oh, actually now I've done that, that feels quite like I need to do it. Draw a diagonal line with your chin up towards the front corner of the room, or your space, your square box, and then down towards your shoulder. So I'm drawing a straight line, but I've tilted, a bit like the old tilt and turn windows. And then come back to face forwards, release the hand first, and then come upright. So this is all quite strong stuff. So upright, tilt over, and then we're drawing that diagonal line from corner to corner. This is the diagonal line with your chin, and that opposite shoulder is staying really still just because I'm leaning, holding onto the chair a little bit. Great. Okay, release the hand first and come back to the center. Wonderful. Let's just get the whole thoracic spine moving a little bit more with some pushes and pulls. So we're pushing with the heels of the palms. If I just go sideways, I'm pushing my rib cage back. This is a really important movement that I want you to get to grips with. I've had to tuck my pelvis under. I've gone right past my sit bones and then lifting up nice and tall. So this is something I talk about a lot when we're on the floor and we're taking our something like a C curve or a rolling like a ball. So just heighten your awareness as we're doing this of those sit bones. So when you're pushing the arms forwards, the heels of the palms forwards, and you're rounding that back, you've tucked your pelvis under so much that you can't even feel your sit bones. Like your sit bones are directing a beam of light forwards in front of you, sort of coming out of your kneecap almost. And then when you're bringing those arms back, opening up the chest, pinning the elbows back, try and lift the chest and feel free to almost overarch that lower back. So you're getting the whole spine involved. Now breathing, breath out, breath in, breath out, breath in, breath out, breath in. Just being aware of the feet as well. So you could take a little push and pull into the floor with the feet. So as I'm pushing my hands away, I'm digging my heels in a little bit, and that's helping me to sort of tuck under. As I'm turning my palms up and bringing the arms back in, I'm scrunching my toes up, bringing my toes back towards my heels. We're going to do some lovely footwork today as well. So just breathing some life into the whole body, from the top of your head to your toes. Great, let's leave that there. So let's take that on into some spine mobilization. So maybe the feet a little bit wider, make sure you're sitting nice and upright. Let's lift the chest. So this will be my usual chest and back lift. And I'll stay facing this way. So I'm arching the back, lifting the chest, looking up. I'm going to pitch forwards, resting my chest over my thighs, and then I'm going to let the head hang last, and then I'm lifting my back up to tuck under and unravel. So from the side, you're looking at this. So we're lifting the chest, pitching forwards, hinging from the hips, rest the chest over the thighs, and then unravel. Land again. It's almost like a lasso action. Breathing nice and evenly. Get that whole spine going. If it feels a bit more comfortable, take the legs a little bit wider. Take the knees out a little bit. Go over your forwards. That just helps to release the hips a little bit. And if you were really feeling like you wanted a bit more of a stretch in that groin, open the legs out into second position. I'm going to sort of go in between the two, I think. For the moment, that feels quite nice. Great, let's reverse that movement now. So you're going to lift your chest slightly at the beginning. You're going to push your rib cage back. You're softening here. Sort of, what's the word? I don't know, I've lost it at the moment. Pushing my rib cage back. Then I'm going to take my head down. I'm going to lead with my head to lift the chest back up again. So we're lifting the chest, rocking slightly back, collapsing in here. Maybe that's the word I was after. Rounding the back, forwards and up to the top. Again, let me show you. So lift the chest, collapse here, push back with that rib cage, reach the top of your head through and arch the back. Let's do two more. Round. Again, heighten your awareness. What's going on in that pelvis? Rocking and rolling over those sit bones. Take one more. Rounding all the way back and then coming up, keeping that weight nice and even through the feet. Fantastic. We're going to take some pelvic clocks. So thinking about that pelvis even more. This would be much more pleasant on a more padded seat than I've got. So pelvic clocks, the same as what we do when we're lying on our backs. So let's just take that tilt and then return to a neutral position. So when we're lying on our backs and we've got our legs bent, this would be, I call this the 12 o'clock and the 6 o'clock position. So 6 o'clock is basically neutral. 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock, 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock. So the regular pelvic tilt reverse, or pelvic tilt and tilt come back to a neutral. We don't really need to go beyond that. Let's, instead of trying to take, let's just take a circle round actually, or yeah, no, I'm going to take a circle round. So think of your waistband at the back. I'm going to push back by taking that pelvic tilt, and then I'm going to go round to the side, come through neutral, round to the other side. So I'm going over that sit bone. That's what I want to say. That's how I'm going to describe it. So I'm taking a circle. So actually, don't forget about the clock analogy. It's not a clock. It's a circle of the pelvis. So as I'm going round to this side, I'm thinking about sort of rolling around the edge of that sit bone. I'm coming back off the sit bones when I'm at the back part. I'm going round the edge, the outside edge of the other sit bone, coming forwards, just feeling that pubic bone, just glancing the edge of the chair, mainly because I've got a hard base chair. Let's go the other way. To the side, go round the edge of that sit bone, tuck the pelvis under. Notice that the weight will change in the feet. This is quite a big movement. Almost like you're massaging around your sit bones. Excellent. Good, so an equal amount both sides. Let's do the same thing with the rib cage. Let's shift the ribs from side to side. So trying to just you could take your arms out to the side, that usually helps people. So palms are down, arms are out to the side. We're shifting from side to side. Great, I'm going to put my hands down and then let's go round to the back, to the side. Come forwards with the ribs, round to the side, the back, side and forwards. You're taking this rib cage, this box of the rib cage round in a wonderful circle. I'm allowing my pelvis to do a small roll as well, small circle, so the weight's changing, let's change direction, round to the other side, but I'm essentially trying to mobilise the rib cage more than the pelvis. But just notice it's all joined together, obviously, but it also, the bigger the movement, the more it's going to affect how you take that movement, if you know what I mean. That didn't make much sense actually. So what we're trying to do here is take quite big movements. Let's take the head round. This is very weird, but actually a very good thing to do, and then change direction. So the head is going back to the side, to the front, to the side, and again I'm allowing my shoulders to go with it a little bit, don't fight it. So what I like about these sort of movements, and this is why I do these bigger movements in my warm-ups all the time, is that you need to know where the edges of your movement is, so that once we started to do a specific Pilates exercise like thoracic rotation, and we just wanted to fix, absolutely, totally fix the pelvis and just move the rib cage on its own. Let's just try that right now. Because we've already taken all this lovely, great big movement, we've warmed everything up, and you've heightened your awareness, you've woken everything up. So now I can reasonably comfortably, I'm not going very far because you never do go very far, but I'm much more aware of keeping my feet grounded, my pelvis grounded, and I'm just allowing this rotation, which is actually very small and very subtle, to happen just in the rib cage spine. That's the point of that, and that's why I like to do those great big things. Okay, we're going to open our legs out nice and wide now. So just mobilising in the hip joint a little bit. If it gets too much, by all means, come sort of halfway. Do turn your legs out a little bit. So you don't want to be completely parallel. You want to be out to the corner slightly, and if you are able to get those legs all the way out a second, just open them up as much as possible. I'm perched on the front of my chair, and then we're going to take one arm up and we're coming all the way over for a side bend, and then swapping to the other side. In fact, before we do that, let's just reach up. So this is what I always do standing, reaching up, lifting up one side of your lower back, just above your waistband. That's where you're stretching from. Checking that there's no change in the shift in the legs and the feet, no change in those sit bones. Hold both arms up and then lower the arms, but keep that lovely length in the spine. So let's go again. Up and over to the side. Think of pushing the rib cage sideways. Let's take it a little bit lower if you can. Take that underneath arm across. Hello, Esty. And across. Is it too hot in the garden? Yeah. And we're going all the way across. So make sure you're really sideways with this work. All the way over to the side. Great. Let's come back to our first side. You're going to be sideways. So I'm thinking about stretching down this, feeling a strong stretch down the side seam of my top. I'm going to push my rib cage back towards the corner of the wall behind me. Now just turn that arm around, and this hand is reaching towards the opposite corner. Then I'm going to come back under sideways again and up to the top. Over to the side and push back. And over to the side. Let's do like that. Over to the side and push back. And the side, and come up to the top. Just make sure you're breathing nice and evenly. And breath in. You could just take a breath in and out with each of those. Really good, well done. So that was our side bends. Let's take a turn to the side. Doesn't matter which way you go. I'm still perched on the edge of my chair, and I'm going to turn my hips and my shoulders to this side. That foot should be flat, sorry. And I'm extending the back leg back behind me. So I've got my this, the buttock that's furthest away from you, just perching on the edge of the chair. And this is a really nice hip flexor stretch. They can be done with that knee bent. So you could tuck up, you could bend that knee and then just tuck the pelvis under, and it's really strong. In fact, let's maybe do that first of all. So you should be relatively comfortable. Tuck that pelvis under, make sure hips, knees, feet are facing your new front, which is sideways on. Then if you can, keep that tuck under. Now try and straighten out that back leg. So that back heel is going to be off, but the leg is nice and straight. If you want to add a little bit more, and it's quite handy having the chair, I'm hanging onto the chair a little bit with my back hand. It's not really a cheat, it's just helping me. And then this arm is going up to the ceiling. The heel of my palm is going up to the ceiling. I'm driving my hips forwards. I'm trying to take a bit of a back bend. That's very strong. That might be too much for you. Absolutely fine. You could just stick with the leg bent and tuck the pelvis under. That is quite strong. We're going to come off of your chair. You're going to come all the way down to the floor and put the opposite hand. You'll be natural hand to that opposite hand to that front foot. Keep that back leg straight if you can. This time now drop your hips down. So again, if you wanted to, you could drop down to that knee. Try and stay with that back leg straight, and now lift the arm up to the ceiling, turn away from the camera. You're trying to touch the ceiling and you're trying to lift out of the floor. Keep that back leg nice and straight, and then just bring that arm down. Take your hand underneath your other, or just to the side, reach to the corner a little bit so that you're rotating, and then up to the top. Breathe and reach through. One more here, up to the top and reach through. Fantastic. Bend that leg, come back in. Ooh, all around to the other side. Let's get around there quite quick. That's quite strong on the hips. So from this position here, so you're seated in the middle, your spine's nice and upright. Just turn that back leg in, or turn the other leg in, turn to the other side, hips and shoulders square to your new front. This leg can be bent to start with. I'm just perched on my other butt cheek, still on the chair. Now tuck the pelvis under. Switch this buttock on. That should be a very strong stretch. Watch that this knee is not out of alignment, really parallel, really forwards. Then if you can, try and straighten that back leg, keeping that pelvic tilt. It's very strong. And breathe. Taking that arm up to the ceiling. I'm stretching through the heel of my palm. Up and up and up and up and up and up. Trying to hold the ceiling up. I'm just going to hang on to the other side of my chair and see if I can go back a little bit more. Trying to relax the shoulders and come all the way forwards. Great. Scoot yourself off the chair. Come down to the floor. Take that hand down to the floor, keep the back leg straight, but this time drop your hips down a little bit lower if you can. The back knee can be down, try and keep it up. We're lifting that arm that's closest to the chair up to the ceiling, and I'm trying to touch the ceiling. So I'm not collapsing down on that shoulder that's closest to the floor. And then I'm going to thread the needle through, take a little rotation here, and then going up again, breathing all the way through, threading the needle through, rotation in that thoracic spine, stretching up. I can't remember whether we did, I think we did 3 of those. One more through, and up to the top, and then we're coming back, and bringing those legs together, and maybe give them a little bit of a shake. Good job. Okay. Drop into back, so back to parallel. Okay, so a nice bit of rotation here. Rotation and thinking about a figure of 8 shape. So sit quite forwards at the front of your chair. Have your feet nice and parallel and comfortable. Make sure your feet are equally weighted on the floor, and you're relaxed in your hips especially. Just draw a figure of 8 at the side of your body. So you're going to take one arm back. Don't worry too much if the back of the chair gets in the way. But so take one arm back, open up your shoulders, bring it to the front, and then swap sides. So you're taking the arm back, you're opening up the shoulder, you're bringing that arm up and over. Swap to the other side. So I'm just crossing my hand to the outside of that leg. So think about the shape you're making with your fingertips. It's a slightly weird figure of 8, I know, but you're drawing the circle at the side of your body, and then the crossways part is your body, if you like. Good, let's go the other way with one arm, up and over, and then up and over, up and over, up and over. So my regular class members will be quite familiar with this move. We tend to do this when we've got the rollers and things. It blows everyone's mind. Good, let's do the same thing with your hands close together, not clasped together, but close together. And this time we're going to come down towards the floor as you swap sides. Keep it quite, don't go too crazy to start with, but as soon as you're able to, allow that lovely movement to happen. Breathing, breath out. I would suggest when you're down, see if you can brush fingertips to the floor. If that's too much, it's absolutely fine. Just take both arms. Notice how the pelvis shifts from one side to the other. You're taking this lovely rotation around your spine. I've got one leg ending up in front of the other as my pelvis is joining in as well, but that's fine. That's what we want. Let's change direction. Up and over, down to the floor. Up and over, down to the floor. Up and over, down to the floor. Brilliant. Okay, well done. Same thing with your head. This is really quite weird. Imagine your nose was your fingertips. So you're going to take your nose and it's going to draw a figure of 8. Take your nose up towards the ceiling, look behind you, draw that circle down, come up through the middle, up to the other side. You're drawing your circle with your nose to the centre. So this is a regular, she says, figure of 8, the way you would normally naturally draw it, I think you'll find. Well, wait until we try the other way and then you'll see what I mean. So up and over, and again just noticing those hands, my knees are shifting forwards and backwards, my pelvis is rotating. We've got this wonderful natural rotation around the centre of your spine, which is a really natural movement. Let's try and do that figure of 8 with your nose the other direction. So you're going to go down to the floor and then up and down to the floor in the centre between both knees. Look behind you, lift up and over. Up and over and up and over. Couple more. Fantastic. And have a little relax. Great. It's fine. Ah, I know what we didn't do. Okay, after that hip flexor stretch, let's take another seated hip flexor or seated hip stretch. Outside hips, this is much more. So just, I'm going to do my tighter side for my hips first. So I'm just bringing that leg up and crossing it over. Now you might already feel a stretch in your outside thigh and buttock on the bent leg side, and that's great. So staying there if you can. Then if you can, taking hold of that foot and taking hold of the underneath of your shin, just lift that leg up. So try and sit up as high as possible and lifting the knee up. You're sort of trying to get this knee up towards your shoulder, opening it out. So this is all your rotation. You can have a little bit of a wiggle about. So I find these really, really difficult, but this is my latest challenge, is to try and get better at the stretches that I'm particularly not so great at. Otherwise we never really challenge ourselves, do we? From here, this one I find really difficult. You're just going to keep the leg where it is and you're going to try and reach forwards. You could take your arms up. It's enough for me to just bring my hands down towards that leg. So the great thing about sitting on the chair is that hopefully your pelvis is fairly level and even. And breathe with this one. So you're aiming to get your chest over your thigh. It's really quite hard. Great. Last one on this with this leg. Lift that knee up, draw it in, be really nice and upright, and this should be relatively easy after our nice bit of warming up that we just did. Use the opposite hand to pull that knee in. Place the other hand behind your butt in the centre of your spine, or hang on to the chair if you need to, but make sure you don't lean. So we want to be as tall as possible, and then just take a rotational stretch around, pulling this knee in and rotating the spine. And I'm just going to grab hold of the back of the chair and use it to help me create that bit of torsion, and all of that on the other side. So we're here. So this might just be a piece of cake for you. If you're not very tight in your hips, and that's really good, but we just want to keep this mobility all the time. Our hips are responsible for a lot of functional movements, and we don't really get to stretch them enough. So lifting that leg up. So again, there should be a stretch on the outside thigh and hip here, and sitting as upright as possible. And I'm just moving around within it a little bit as well. I'm not very good at staying still in stretches. I don't want it to be completely static. Reaching forward, so try and keep that spine nice and long, relaxing over that leg. And breathe. Be very aware that your hips and shoulders are square. You're not twisting, which you might be. If this is a really tight stretch for you, you might be really twisting. So just go as far as you can. Breathe into it. Okay, well done. Drawing that knee in, sitting really upright. So keep the gap between your legs, but pull in with the opposite hand. So this leg is coming across your central line, stretching that hip, and then we're rotating the spine towards that leg at the same time. And breathe. Brilliant, coming back to the centre. Fantastic, wonderful. We have got some nice footwork now. And in fact, I might just put my chair slightly different way. I might go this way a bit more, just so that you can see my feet on the mat. Okay. So let's start with some, I call these caterpillars. This is all the Garuda work, it's really nice. In fact, let's just start with trying to scrunch your toes up. If I put one foot in front of the other, you might be able to see a bit more on this one. So I've already got my natural arch there, but I'm going to actually sort of push my toes into the mat, and in fact, I'm just going to show you with one foot. It's like I'm trying to bring my top of my big toe towards my heel, and it's like I'm scrunching the mat up. And can you see I'm deepening that arch? But I'm not doing that with my toes. I'm not scrunching my toes up. It's like you're almost like a sucker pad action. In fact, I am bringing my toes together a little bit, but I'm not curling them over. That's a different thing. So waking up, so both feet together, again sitting at the front of your chair. If you find that you're not comfortable, maybe you've got little legs and you're not comfortable in your hip flexors here, have your feet raised a little bit, or sit on something that's a bit lower, just so that you're really comfortable. So we're just scrunching, drawing up, and I'm doing this sort of with my hands. It's that movement, that lifting of the centre, lifting of the arches. Good. So now lift all your toes up and then scrunch your toes under. All your toes up so that you're on the balls of your feet, and then scrunch them under. So heels are staying still, toes are up, scrunch the toes under, toes are up, scrunch the toes under, up and scrunch under, up and scrunch under. Now we're going to use this movement to make our caterpillars happen. So we're going to lift the toes up. You're going to dig your toes into the mat, scrunch your toes under, and that scoots your heels along. Lift your toes, scrunch, toes, scrunch, toes, scrunch and scoot, toes, scrunch and scoot. And it gets to the point where your legs are almost straight, and we're going to reverse it. You lift your toes up but scrunched, you dig them in, you unravel your feet. It's like a reverse worm, and they come back. And again, don't worry if this isn't available to you today. Have a little practice of it. So the first thing to do is try and get that scrunch and lifting the toes up, and then you're just using that movement to roll away and come back. It should make your underneath of your feet just feel amazing, just really nice and alive. Let's go one more. Scrunching away and coming back. Brilliant. Okay, same principles with the feet. Just turning so put your hands on your knees. You're going to turn both feet at the ankles from side to side. Good. So it's like you're trying to wipe the ball of your foot. There's a really big nasty fly in there. It's like you're trying to wipe the ball of your foot on the carpet, on the floor, but knees stay still, thighs stay still. You're rotating around your shin bones. Let's go one in, one out. Oh, one in, one out. Reminds me of the fly episode of Breaking Bad. There and there. Great. Okay, let's leave that footwork there today. Really good. Oh yes, I know what we're going to do. There's some little jumps. So again, sitting at the front of your chair. So let's just go through, and again I do this work standing, but it's really nice to do it seated and to take the weight off of the feet a little bit, because you're taking that pressure out of the all the way of the balance side of it as well, I guess. So let's just lift the heel on both feet, actually. In fact, I'm going to do one at a time. Lift the heel, pop the toes, put the ball of the foot back down, and then the heel back down. Other side. Heel, pop the toes, ball of the foot, heel. Heel, toes, toes, heel. Heel, toes, toes, heel. Heel, toes, toes, heel. Heel, toes, toes, heel. Let's do both together. So you're going to need to sit forwards a little bit. Try and sit quite forward so that we're getting a little bit of a you're having to switch on in your abdominal wall. So we're going to take a little jump. Heel, toes, toes, heel. Heel, toes, toes, heel. There and there and there and there. And I'm trying to sit a bit more forwards each time. This is quite hard. And go, and go, and go, and go, and go, and go, and go. Go one at a time, one at a time, one at a time. In fact, I'm finding I'm pushing into the floor a little bit more now. Just using my hands for support, slightly on the chair. Let's go back to doubles. Back, let's turn, let's go. I'm getting into this now. Let's go parallel, turned out, 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 turned out, parallel, turned out. Okay, and relax, well done. Give those feet a little bit of a twiddle if you need to. Great. Okay, we are coming into some squats. Coming up out of your chair and back into your chair. So again, really functional movement. So you want your, let me go this way, back again I think. You want your legs to be pretty much shoulder width apart, making sure your heels are underneath you, toes slightly out to the corner, therefore knees are going to go slightly out to the corner. 2 minutes to 2 minutes past the hour, not really much more than that. Let's just first of all bring the arms forwards, turn the palms up and just hinge forwards. And just, you might feel, in fact let's go there and then turn the palms backwards and push the heels of your hands backwards. So with little finger up, and I'm just scooting myself slightly off of the chair. In fact, I'm just turning my hands back and keeping them in a straight line. I'm not really pushing through my heels with my palms. So lifting up, get the arms up by the ears, pitch that weight forwards and then come back again. There, lifting the chest a little bit. So feeling like, again if I go this way, not feeling like, actually making sure this is happening, that your spine is staying in its natural curves. So arms are up by the ears, the shoulders are down, and that hopefully should be relatively easy. And then come forwards, stand up, pin those arms back, reach the arms away, send the bottom back, sit upright. Come forwards, stand up, send the bottom away, and there. Forwards, coming up, butt away, couple more, and up. If you don't want to come all the way up, just stick with this one. Rocking that weight into the heels. Did my arms wrong then? Forwards and up, that's the one. Swinging forwards, so I'm reaching my arms forwards in the opposite direction and then back. Forwards and up, and there. Now that feels really good on the back line of the body for me. My legs feel really strong. I feel nice and just all, don't feel tight in the hips at all. Let's take 4 more. 4. Thinking about, oops, didn't throw my arms forwards enough there. Thinking about keeping the spine absolutely in its natural curves. Last one, here we go. And just at the end there, I was feeling that I didn't even need to lift my butt off. I could just reach those arms forwards and I had the strength. I had the strength in the legs to lift up and push down through those heels. That was great. Okay, let's do single leg. Okay, while we're on just slightly more difficult things, 2 things here actually. A nice stretch followed by a couple of bits of strength work. So the first stretch is just this, hanging onto the back of your chair if you can, or if you're on a stool, hanging onto the back edge of it, and just lifting those elbows up, bending the arms, lifting the elbows up, pinning the elbows back to get towards each other and really trying to open up that chest and just holding that there. You might want to just slightly lift your head, but it's trying to get this wonderful stretch across your shoulders. Maybe just pulling against the chair a little bit. I'm just pitching slightly forwards. If you can, get the arms up quite high. If that's too uncomfortable, have the arms low. Tuck those elbows in. I find this particularly difficult on one side of my shoulder more than the other. Make sure you're not twisting at all. Great job. Okay, and then we're going to take a little bit of strength work, if you can, in those triceps. So coming off of your chair, it's rude not to do a little bit of strength work. So fingertips are forwards, you've lifted your butt off of the chair, but keep it close. You're bending and straightening, bending and straightening, bending and straightening. You don't have to go very low. Keep the weight nice and even in the feet. Bend and straighten, bend and straighten, bend and straighten. Keep the chest really open. Let's take another 10. 7, 6, in case you thought I wasn't counting. 4, 3, 2, 1, and scoot that bottom back. Give those arms a little bit of a hug. Hanging on to your elbows, just let that chest open up. Oh, nice. Okay, one more. This is a Pilates exercise. It's called leg pull. Leg pull front. Sometimes it's called a leg pull supine because we're going to be in this position. But basically, I'm going to have my hands on the chair again. I'm going to take my legs out straight, and I'm going to let my legs be turned out. So just try this for the moment. So pushing down with those hands, lifting the chest, and then if you can, walk your feet forwards a little bit so that your bottom isn't resting on the chair, and have this wonderful straight line. Now really try and lift out of your arms, your shoulders, as if you're trying to lift your chest up towards the ceiling. You're holding that there, and then that might be enough for you. And then if you can, we're lifting one leg and lowering. So I'm on the outside edge of my feet, trying to keep pelvis stable. It's relatively comfortable. My legs are turned out. Sorry, I might not have mentioned that. Legs are turned out in the hip socket, which is why I can be on the outside edge of my feet. Strong work, shoulders, but also we're looking at pelvic stability. So just alternating, lifting, keep that chest lifted. Let's take another 4 if you can. 4, 3. It's one of those things that looks impossible, and then you have to go and think, oh, okay, it's not that bad. 2 and 1, and bend. Come back in. Fantastic. Okay, last thing, I promise, with the chair, and then we're going to come down to the floor. And this is just a kneeling one. So you're going to be here, kneeling on the floor. In fact, I'm going to go that way with my chair. So just get yourself into position, and we're just going to use this nice height of the chair to stretch out the front of the chest again. So I'm taking my knees quite a way back. Make sure your knees are underneath your hips, and then I'm just sticking my bottom out behind me. But this is the important bit, taking that chest down towards the floor, so below the level of the chair if you can. And then when you get there, have a little slightly mad sway from side to side, and breathe. Let the head be relaxed. My ears are actually gone past my arms. My head is lower than my arms. And breathe. And then maybe let's take some sit bone circles from here. So I'm hanging onto the edge of the chair. So to have a little look, I'm going to tuck my pelvis under, rounding up, finishing off with the head, and then coming back down with a flatter back, if you like. Tuck the pelvis under. So sending that tailbone away, rounding up through the spine. Head is the last thing. Relax all the way down. 2 more. Tucking under, all the way down. This is a move that actually could be done on a kitchen worktop even, a table. Yeah, that can be done anywhere, so your legs would be straight with that one. Brilliant. Okay, let's move bits and pieces. Let's get the chair out of the way for a little bit of floor work. Hopefully that feels good. So thinking about the shape of your spine as it is on the mat. I quite like to, when I'm trying to find my neutral position, I just wiggle about a bit. So I'm going to just move my pelvis around, roll it around, It all feels quite good actually. But you want to find that neutral position where you've got the lower back curve, pubic bone, hip bones are on the same plane. You've got that nice smile at the front of your lower abdomen. And primarily we're going to think about the ribs when we do this next exercise. So make sure that the ribs at the front are nice and relaxed, because the ribs at the back are in contact with the mat. Even the lower ribs. Your lower ribs are really quite close to your waistband at the back, and they should, even those should just be brushing the mat if you can, or brushing the floor, so that you're not basically up here. When we've been working really quite strongly, and you're all a bit hyped up, and everything's a bit fired up, if you like, we tend to automatically be here. So just allow that to melt a little bit. And then we're going to take opposite arm and leg away along the floor. So make sure when you're sliding your legs, so I'm on my yoga mat, so it's a little bit sticky. When you bring the leg back in, you want to retain your core being switched on, without actually lifting the leg up and without rocking your mat up either. So it's you need a certain level of tension, and I quite like that. In fact, let's do that first of all. Let's spread the fingers and the thumbs far apart, span them across your torso. So you're checking with your thumbs that those ribs are drawn down. Back of the head and neck is long by the way the nape of the neck curve is in place. So rib cage is connected to your hips. My little fingers are on my hip bones. Slide one leg away and slide it back in. Notice there's no change in that torso. There's no flaring of the ribs. There's no rocking and rolling of the pelvis. But I am switched on. I'm not just... Oh, here comes Bailey. We've got to add a day for the dogs today. Hello, babe. Go and settle down, buddy. Just thinking about it. Go on, lie down then. No. Come on, there you go. There you go. Good boy. Come on, there you go. Come on. Sorry about that. Okay. So, yes, thinking about keeping everything switched on. So I'm connecting, but actively drawing that rib cage down. Lifting up pelvic floor, drawing in from my lower abdomen. I've switched everything on. So let's take the movement of opposite arm and leg. Breath out and breath in. This is relatively easy. It's not particularly hard work, but I want you to do it really, really well. Be really picky with yourself as to the quality of this movement. The timing. Breathing out as you extend, the arm and the leg get there at the same time. Breath in as you return, they get back to the base position at the same time. Ribs, pushing them down, drawing them down, they stay connected all the way through. So opposite arm and leg. Let's take a single leg, double arms. Breath out, breath in. I'm not actually touching the floor with my hands. I don't want you to flip back at the wrist so that your fingertips can touch the floor. I want you to keep your arms straight, but because I'm really focusing on keeping my rib cage drawn down, I can't quite touch the floor. I don't want to force it. If I try and touch the floor, yeah, just about. I can just about get there, but that makes me have to work even harder, and potentially that rib cage will flare. One more of these, double arms, single leg. Then we're going double arms, double legs. Take your time, make sure you're switched on in your centre. Breath out, breath in. Now we're really having to work hard. When you bring those arms back, think of the movement initiating from the armpit, the elbows, then the hands. Because you're drawing those shoulder blades down. Pelvis, lower abdomen is working hard with those legs. managing to ruck the mat, which is not so good. And okay, so we're going to take, let's go, I'm going to shift over a little bit. Let's take arms and legs out, and then let's come in and lift up into a ball now. And then feet to the floor, head down, stretch everything away. Let's keep it straight and parallel for the moment, and then draw everything in. So I'm taking my hands to the edge of my knees. I'm hanging onto my knees a little bit. I'm not. You could have your knees together if you wanted to, but I'm just trying to get both ends in as tight as I can. Let's do 2 more of these. Stretch out and squeeze in. Stretch out and squeeze in. Okay, from this squeezed in position, just watch me a moment. I'm going to go. Yeah, I'll come over towards the camera first, I think. You're going to stay in this squeezed in position, roll over onto your side, stay in that position, and then extend the top arm and the top leg. Really stretch them away, and then roll back onto your back. When you get onto your back, extend the other leg away into a star. Stretch everything out, and then draw everything in to a ball to roll over to the other side. Top arm, top leg, my cushion's getting in the way, and that's all going on today. And in fact, as you roll onto your back, extend into the star. Yeah? So, if you're on your back now, let's go into a star, first of all. So arms and legs, now we're reaching out to the corners. Now we're drawing everything into a tight little ball. Keep rolling over to one side. Extend top arm and leg away and reach onto your back. Extend arms and legs out in the opposite direction. Draw everything in again. Tuck everything in, roll onto your side and extend. Try and lift that rib cage up to the ceiling as you roll onto your back. Lengthen the other arm and leg away. Let's do 2 more. Here we go. All the way in. I've got my elbows touching my thighs. I'm in the tightest ball I can possibly be. Now I'm in the longest line I can possibly be. And just relax, release into that big star. Draw everything in. Rolling over to the side. Extend everything away. And onto your back. Stretch out in that star. And relax. I was going to do another abdominal exercise, but I'm going to leave that for today. In fact, I think I might just leave everything there for today as it's time. Well done. I hope you enjoyed that.